everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Wanderers podcast. I'm Jared from Midnight Lab, and I'm here tonight with...
Hey, it's me. It's retro_loneliness, and today here we're back. You know, it's been a while since we've been doing stuff. Once again, we're both students. We've been busy with finals, kicking their ass back. You know, we got some news, some things to talk about, some new things, some old things, but you know, they're all interesting. And speaking of which, we had to start off things, talk about Pinkertons, right?
A TTRPG originally, game studio, Wizards of the Coast, Magic the Gathering publisher, just this past month has sent Pinkertons after a player that got a product too early. And this has been in the buzz pretty much everywhere in the media lately because of how the Pinkertons are utilized here. Essentially, this isn't something companies tend to do anymore, especially not publicly. But yeah, they've been historically a kind of union-busting service, Pinkertons. And, you know, they don't really make you look good if you use them against people, especially on people that probably don't deserve it. What do you think about all this?
I just think it's kind of hilarious to see that, like, how petty a company could be regarding, like, the way cards in general have, like, exploded in popularity. I don't know if it's, like, a resurging thing or, like, a new thing to me. But, like, now that I'm paying attention to what's happening, because it's just been in my face for so long, like, nowadays, it just kind of, it's, how do I put it? It's crazy to see how much people put so much stock in these cards and how much like certain cards are worth over others. Yeah, it's the fact that it's like a stolen thing. It's like I don't know. I personally don't find like a lot of value in these cards as much as other people. Like, what do you derive? What's your take on basically?
Well, I play Magic the Gathering, and I think, you know, it really depends on your perspective. I'm kind of in the sense where I don't really think cards are that valuable overall. I don't prefer spending like more than like $5 on like even a really good card if I can. But in this case, this is like a set that wasn't supposed to release yet, and the person, well, who's a YouTuber, ended up getting that product by accident. And you know, that's what they cited, stolen product, because he wasn't supposed to have it in that sense stolen. But it seems to have been a misunderstanding or a mistake in some sense. What do you think? Is this an overreaction, especially since, you know,
In my
this is over
opinion,
cards?
I would have like been like talk to the guy, being like quietly like, "Hey, dude, we'll compensate you for the fact that you were in the crossfire and you didn't know." Like, I don't know if the person knew if that like this is like some new shit that is not on the street yet. But
Yeah,
I wouldn't have sent the Pinkertons after them. Or maybe
probably not.
but in the worst case scenario, I would have sent the Pinkertons, but I would have been like, "Look, homie, just give us the cards. Here's a sack of cash. You're twice fold compensated for what you paid for. We just want it back."
You could be onto something there, yeah. What they did end up giving him was his original product back, the one he was supposed to receive, and nothing more.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of nuts, especially since like the Pinkertons, one of the country's oldest private security firms. According to Engadget, they say that the Pinkerton Detective Agency dates all the way back to 1850, but during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Pinkertons made a name for themselves with their anti-union operations as they continue to do so in the 21st century. I just hope this like YouTuber is like doing all right now, and you know, like could has either bounced back or will bounce back from this situation. This whole ordeal.
Yeah, YouTuber is old school MTG. That is pretty insane.
Other developments in the new when it comes to what games are coming out. You have Mortal Kombat 11. Personally, I'm not the biggest Mortal Kombat fan, but I know a lot of people, especially I know Jared is very interested in the new in fighting games in general, such as in the past we covered Street Fighter 6. Now we're covering Mortal Kombat 1, which according to PC gamers is according to their headline, it's a reboot and a sequel at the same time. And it doesn't make. I mean, I haven't looked much more into it, except for the fact that the known roster includes Liu Kang, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Katana, Melina, Kung Lao, Shang Tsung. There wasn't, from the stuff that's been already seen, they're in like, or sorry, confirmed. Johnny Cage is also making a return. Not seen in the trailer, but but Raiden also Raiden, right?
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, so Raiden makes a return, but instead of being like the Raiden that we all know with these electric powers and being like a god or whatever, he's actually just a regular guy this time in this like new timeline that was supposedly in the canon timeline of the last Mortal Kombat DLC called Aftermath. Apparently, Raiden gives up his powers for Liu Kang to defeat Kronika or whatever.
Oh, I believe that was the ending of 11. Yeah, it seems. Yeah, the announcement trailer for this Mortal Kombat 1 remake, it seems, is not keeping it a secret that, like you said, it's trying to be both at once. It seems, including the events that occurred in 11. It's probably going to tie them together in a way we'll see when the game comes out.
Yeah, what are your
But,
expectations?
I mean, it'll probably be good, since 11 was really fun, since it kind of leaned more into the time jumpy kind of universe bending stuff that 9 did as well, and kind of emphasized that as part of the story as a pretty good excuse to have fights between iconic characters occur with newer characters, you know?
Definitely. Looking back at how Mortal Kombat has been received over the years, a lot of people. I know 11 was one of the big ones, but it seemed and like you mentioned 9. How do you feel about like 10's legacy?
10 specifically. I remember 10 being pretty mixed, kind of with 11 as well. But I overall like 10 and 11 in their own ways. But I think its legacy overall is very positive. Because even though there was kind of mixed reception at the time, I think people that play it now, you know, it's kind of just people that enjoyed it in the past and continue to enjoy it. So it's just kind of a more positive community, at least last time I checked, which in fairness was like 2 years ago.
Well, yeah. Hopefully, it's kind of interesting to see how this game is kind of just announced with the fact that Street Fighter 6 is also, well, it already has been announced, but a demo has also been already released for it.
Oh yeah, I played that demo.
How was it?
It's a pretty good demo. You can only play as 2 characters, Ryu and the other titular character. I forget his name. Basically, the one that
The
his
cover
fighting
guy,
style
right?
is very similar to Ryu. Yes.
Yeah, so it's gonna be cool seeing the dichotomy of Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat come back, because in my early days when it was Street Fighter 4 and it was MK9, I remember being in like a lot of like arguments with a lot of people when it came to the two games. I'm a diehard Street Fighter fan. I love Street Fighter. I think it's the game that started it all when it comes to fighting games. It's gonna be cool seeing how the audience is gonna react to the further developments coming from this game.
Yeah, I'm a fan of both, and I think fans of both, like me, are going to be in for a good treat over the next couple of years. Because, you know, like you said, well, Street Fighter 6 is just around the corner, and they're remaking this good game, which NetherRealm's probably working on another one that's newer too, that they might announce in the near future. But who knows? Basically, yeah, I think there's everything in its own franchise is kind of fleshed out enough where they're all kind of unique playing experiences from each other.
Yeah, and what guest characters do you think they'll add? Like, do you remember the last guest characters from the previous games?
Shoot, well, they do usually do their tie-ins with Injustice. They might stop doing that though. They always have some titular like horror characters. Like they had Jason last time, and I know they had Freddy Krueger in MK9.
Yeah, they had Carl Weathers in Mortal Kombat 10, Rambo in 11, Kratos in I believe 9, Leatherface in 10, Kruger did come out. 9 as well, Predator in 10, the Terminator in 11, the Joker is in 11, Spawn is in 11, Jason Voorhees was in 10. I remember when Voorhees originally came out, it was kind of stupid broken.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. And then he also RoboCop in 11 and Alien in 10. Like some of my friends have been saying like it'd be cool seeing like Homelander Homelander would be cool, or the guy from Peacemaker, also, or Peacemaker.
Oh, that seems actually probably realistic. That might happen.
Since like most of these guys are from the '80s, like what '80s characters would you like to come back, or what '90s characters, I guess, or like in general, like guest characters, any
Have
that
they
you would
done
want?
Leatherface?
Yeah,
Oh, damn it! That was my idea. was I guess that's probably where I got the idea from then.
like for me, I guess
Another good slasher character. I'm just struggling to think of one right now.
to pull this one out of your rug, I'd probably say like Scream maybe.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Scream would be a good one. I don't know. Fuck, dude. It's like,
It's because they've hit so many good ones already, is why it's so hard.
yeah. I guess it'd be cool seeing John McClane from Die Hard. He'd be cool. Maybe Jason Bateman from American Psycho. Yeah. Oh, what's his face from Fight Club? Brad Pitt's character.
Would you believe me if I told you I have not seen Fight Club?
You haven't seen Fight Club, bro?
I have not seen Fight
It's
Club.
okay.
I know the twist though, unfortunately.
Yeah, Tyler Durden that's his name. I completely forgot his name. So it'd be cool seeing Tyler Durden in that as well.
Yeah, that's why these kinds of things are always a win across the board, because every fighting franchise has like its own take on guest characters. It kind of makes everything feel like a big like Smash Brothers game. If you're just a fan of fighting games in general.
True. I guess if I would like, since there's both DC, what DC person would I have? What DC character would you like?
Well, they'd be pretty smart to take it towards like the Suicide Squad route.
The Suicide Scrubs, yeah. Yeah, the Suicide Squad. Yeah, dude, Polka Dot Man would be cool.
That'd be hilarious, and that's something that could work.
I would love Polka Dot Man. Because, I mean, Harley Quinn is just Joker from the last game with just a hammer instead.
And they've also had Harley Quinn in Injustice, so
yeah,
they probably don't want to just revisit too many characters that already exist.
Maybe
so.
Killer Croc would be cool. No, not Killer Croc. What's his name? The shark fella?
Wow, what is his name?
King Shark, right? Or some shit like that?
It is King Shark.
Yeah. Yeah, so it'd be cool seeing those characters. I mean, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what the fuck they're going to do. Imagine these had, like, Mario.
Peacemaker was a part of that, too, and he had his own, even HBO show going on as well, so that's a pretty big name right now.
Yeah, very much true. Any more final thoughts on Mortal Kombat?
No, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see some gameplay from it. There's like a announcement trailer that shows some pretty in-depth, good-looking cinematics that are confirmed. But yeah, I'm just excited in general for that. And to put a cap on that Street Fighter 6 demo thing, the character I was thinking of is named Luke. And the demo is really fun and free, but it does take up almost 60 gigabytes of storage.
That's stupid. Oh my
since
god.
uninstalled it.
That is a lot, dude. How much? It's probably because of the character creation shit, man.
It's very good looking, and there's multiple announcers you can have over the stages. There's a lot of like character put into it. You can choose to have like a live announcer turned on that kind of reacts to the moves you're making, and like if someone like cuts off your combo or something, or does like a breaker or like a special move and makes it, then they'll adapt to that and kind of say it out loud. I personally turned it off, but they have like different voices for that are like celebrities and like other artists.
Dude, this sounds like Killer Instinct with the way they have it with a combo breaker.
Yeah, something. Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've all of the people that I've played the demo that I talked to all told me the same shit. It's like, yeah, we turned off the announcer.
Yeah, okay. That may be a thing though. It seems more like a party thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But not like if I'm like playing the game and practicing or something. I probably would have it off at all times because, like who's gonna want to listen to that all day? But I do think it is a neat feature.
Yeah, well, I mean, with games looking so realistic nowadays, like, do you think there's ever going to be a limit with what's, like, coming out soon?
I think it's getting pretty close to the point where you can't even tell anymore. I think a good example of that is some recent, I guess I'm going to say, light controversy that sprung up from some game footage of a new indie developer game, had some footage of it released online, and people couldn't quite tell if it was real or not. Do you remember the name of this game?
Yeah, it's Unrecorded. It's a according to the way they lit the French independent developer Drama is calling it, is a body cam first person shooter. The reason this game is getting a lot of like controversy is because it was, first of all, it seems like it was made, I don't remember, but it seems like it was made in the latest version of Unreal Engine, and what they're doing is they're making it as realistic as possible, and they're making it so it look like it's like body cam footage, so it looks distorted enough for you to not be able to realize that it's actually just a video game, but it makes you play as like a police officer almost, like the body sway, everything. It looked like,
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't know that it was that, like, coming into the video, that it was like video game, you'd probably think it was real life, like body cam footage from a police officer.
Yes, and many of the internet's reaction actually was to accuse the developer of actually using fake footage, and maybe not accusing him of totally taking it from real life, but perhaps making it more of a pre-render than an actual playable game. So in response, the developer actually released video of himself playing through the game, surprisingly with a mouse and keyboard, which if you look up footage of it, it like the movement looks really accurate in terms of like how you kind of sway and bob back and forth, moving through a room and stuff. So he released that footage of him even no clipping through some of the walls and stuff, proving that he was in a game environment, inside of a level.
Yeah, wasn't there another
So,
game that was accused of also being vaporware before that you talked about? Dark and Darker?
oh, Dark and
Was it
Darker.
that one?
Oh, that wasn't accused of looking too realistic. That was the one where they got accused by a bigger studio of taking some of their assets and making a game out of it.
Gotcha.
So accusing them of stealing their graphics and mechanics and stuff, which still hasn't been proven to be true or not. But yeah, similar, I guess, in terms of controversy. But yeah, this one's not as serious. But like you said, it does look pretty realistic. And now that I'm looking at it again, I'm wondering if it has to do with that kind of like fishbowl kind of rounded look
Like the
to the
periscope?
camera. Yeah, because it kind of reminds me of the kill cam or the spectator cam from the new Modern Warfare, the helmet cam, where you kind of get the perspective of the helmet instead of the first person camera, and it looks a little, the movements look a little more realistic, at least in my opinion. So I wonder if that kind of fishbowl effect has anything to do with it feeling more realistic looking.
And in the article by The Guardian, they're saying that with a conversation from a developer regarding the clarifications of the game, they're saying that considering the high production costs of a video game and our global reputation at stake, if Unrecord were a scam, it would be a blockbuster scam. As the developer attempted to dissuade concerns, or try to mitigate the concerns about the game's content, and when they were asked about how they would handle things when it comes to policing, such as like the political side of things, they responded by saying that the game will obviously avoid any undesirable topics such as discrimination, racism, violence against women and minorities. The game will have no bias or Manichaean take on criminal acts and police violence. So I mean, like, so I think they're, in my opinion, they're coming off with their clean slate. I don't really have a problem. I would praise them really to a high regard with what they're showing as of now, with the level of fidelity this game is coming in, graphically speaking, by to the point where it's like, oh my god, dude, you can't even tell. Like, if you were to, like, because the game, like, from the footage, you can't even see the HUD. There is no
Yeah,
HUD. So
yeah, it's true.
it's up until the point where you talk to like some bozo, you tell him to put his hands up, that like the HUD finally comes in, which seems like odd, like dialogue based. But up until then, it's like I didn't even know at first, which when I first heard of Unrecord, I'm really excited for it. And if it keeps going the way it does, I might pre-order it. I'll have to see.
Right on. Yeah, well, we will have to see more gameplay of it. From what they've shown so far, there aren't like too many enemies or variety. It's just kind of an impressive tech demo. But to me, it kind of looks like it's trying to be a maybe more narrative-driven version of something like Rainbow Six or like the SWAT series. I could be wrong. Like I said, not too much footage available yet, only this tidbit of bickering about if it's real or not, which so far it appears to be. That could change later.
It's very true. It's very true. You know, and moving from things that are we can be skeptical about when it comes to Unrecorded, there are some things that Windows 10 has been like. There's some announcements for Windows 10, right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, that is entirely true. Not too long ago, just at the very end of April, Microsoft sent out an official announcement that Windows 10 is officially getting nothing new. Nothing's changing about Windows 10, and any further updates that come out now are just maintenance related.
Awesome.
So not necessarily updates.
It's really cool to know that they announced that there will be no more announcements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because of that feature update they had last year, they're pretty much citing that as the last major thing that's actually changing. So anything that you're seeing right now isn't going to change. And this isn't necessarily any kind of news other than neutral, but it does kind of indicate now the clock is ticking on it like every other operating system.
I think that's crazy. Reading from XDA developers.com, they're saying that the feature update released last year will be the final version of Windows 10 to ever be released. Microsoft will no longer be providing feature updates for the nearly 8-year-old operating system. That's nuts, dude. It's 8 years old now.
Yes, it is.
I remember using Windows 10 back in middle school, I think. Like I like it's coming back when I took like typing class in middle school. Like it was kind of nuts, gnarly.
Yeah, I was a bit older, but I remember being glad that it was better than 8. At
Yeah.
least in my opinion.
The only time I remembered 8 was with like the big box like TV monitors, more than like the flat screen ones that are like commonplace nowadays.
Yeah, in fairness, it was like their first crack at trying to hybridize both like desktop and tablet experiences with one operating system.
Oh,
So, I mean, the tiles make sense as an idea, but they've since gotten a lot better at using tiles in the 10 years that they've existed.
yeah, it's very much true. As mentioned in the last episode, speaking towards Windows 11, I've been making fair use of everything that Windows 10 has been providing me and with the features. Eventually, my computer will have to bend the knee to the Microsoft overlords as they force update my computer to Windows 11. But until then, I'll be continuing to use Windows 10.
Yeah, that same article you just cited looks like it's saying here and confirming Windows. It looks like you're going to be able to still use 10 until 2025.
Well, just like a cancer patient, man, I'll make the most out of it.
Yeah, October of 2025. Basically 2 years and a few months left.
Nice. That's good. Yeah, and with that being said, there's my final thoughts on this whole thing would be just it's it's funny how Microsoft has been literally hit or miss with the way they've been releasing things. Like there's Windows XP, Windows 95, Windows 8, I feel like there's one between like 8 and 10 that existed briefly. I don't remember. Maybe I'm misremembering. But there's like Windows 10 and a Windows 11.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we either are moving towards a future where a few like companies monopolize certain things in the sense like Apple with phones, Microsoft with computers, or Microsoft isn't gonna stay the like number one most widely used operating system forever. Either or.
That'd be hilarious, man. An Android-based PC system. That would be nuts, dude.
Yeah, that's I guess just because of how these things work. now time is numbered on updates. I guess it would be nice to have the option to switch between updates, but I can see how things would definitely get messy there, especially how functionality improves over time. Concluding the response to this information, moving away from Microsoft for the time being, we wanted to give you some updates on a few games that have come out recently, specifically the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, which is called Jedi Survivor, I believe, and the sequel to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Each of us have played one of these. Tears of the Kingdom has been out only recently. It's only been out for about a week now, whereas Jedi Survivor has been out for about 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. How much Jedi Survivor have you played?
Well, I actually ended up finishing the game. When it comes to the percentage level of the places you explore and travel within the Jedi Survivor, I've reached above like 80%, like collecting all the collectibles I could, and completing as much of the challenges as I could as well. I already started my New Game Plus run on the same difficulty, that being Jedi Master, which is the second hardest difficulty right before Jedi Grandmaster. My time. Sorry, what was you saying?
I was just saying I see.
Yeah.
But I guess since you've paused, I wanted to ask, how long did that all take you?
I guess I mean, with school and everything going on, like, I mean, if I had to count the amount of hours, probably like 30 hours, probably. Yeah, it took me a while. I took my sweet time with it. I really enjoyed. I tried to make the most out of everything when it came to the skill levels, like the customization and like the everything you could unlock in the game. Um, I really there was it's the biggest difference between Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order is that Fallen Order, there's only two styles of lightsaber combat you can have, and in Jedi Survivor, they decide to be more ambitious and give you the variety of having four different styles. Um, it's sort of common knowledge by now, but the four styles are, of course, the return of the single blade that everyone uses, like Anakin. There's the dual blade, like Darth Maul. Sorry, that's a double blade. The dual blade, which is where you could have two single bladed lightsabers on each hand, kind of like Starkiller. And the let's see, I think it's five actually. So it's single blade, double blade, dual wield. Then there's one where you use a single lightsaber and a pistol, and then the last one you unlock eventually is like this big ass, like heavy lightsaber with like the hilt being lit up like Kylo Ren's lightsaber.
That's kind of dope.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I stuck around with using the double-bladed lightsaber, like Darth Maul's stance, with the dual wield, which is basically where Cal Kestis would just use the double-bladed and then split them apart or put them together, depending if you wanted to switch between the two. I enjoyed it. The biggest gripes with the game would have to be, of course, with the, even though I've played it on PS5 on performance, the quality of the game still was kind of shoddy.
I see.
On release, the Jedi Survivor did have it did not have a good launch in comparison to its predecessor, unfortunately.
I remember that I checked the reviews on PC as well, and they were mixed because of performance.
Yeah, which is a shame. Because it's a solid game. The story wise, it's like the Arkham City. So like overall, if you were to tie this to a different game that's already existed, you could look towards the Batman Arkham series, and you could say that Fallen Order, the first game, was like Arkham Asylum, and then Jedi Fallen Survivor or whatever the fuck it's called. Would be like the city of the Star Wars, of the Jedi Survivor, the Cal Kestis story, right? It's really good. I enjoyed it. Another gripe I had with the game was it feels like when it came to the way you fought using the lightsabers, they felt more surface level, I feel like that this was due to the fact that you used 5 stances instead of 4, instead of 2.
Uh-huh.
With the 2 stances, I felt like you had more flexibility to make the moves, the move set that you could unlock was more diverse and was more dynamic. And there were a
Really?
lot of and there were a lot of skills that were like that I thought would carry on from the first game that were just missing, and like kind of addressed by replacing them with like one skill. So like for every like 2 skills missing, they would replace it with one.
So you're
Um,
saying there were like more weapon types, but less like move sets and combos with those weapons.
yeah, it's hopefully that with a DLC that well, with the way they take the end of the game, Cal Kestis has the ability to learn more moves with those 5 move sets. That would be awesome. I would dig that. The In the first game, you couldn't really also customize. The customization would go beyond that as well, because Cal Kestis in the first game, little baby boy Kestis, you were only able to change the way his poncho looked like if he wore a poncho, and if he didn't wear a poncho, he had like this vest underneath, and
I see.
you could only change the color of the poncho, the vest, and the color of the shirt, or maybe the shirt and the vest were a combo together. Um, and then like everything else would stay the same. The lightsabers you could customize as well, and you were able to customize the color of BD, which is your little like Pikachu, like your if like Ash Ketchum from Ash Ketchum from Pokemon to Pikachu is like Cal Kestis to BD1. Um,
Yeah, I saw you playing a bit of it, and it kind of looked to me like you could pretty much customize almost everything you could see on yourself.
yeah, it's very true. In the first game, the last thing you could do that is not in the second game, which kind of makes sense, kind of weird that it's missing, is that in the first game you were able to customize the way that your ship looked like the mantis, and you could give it different colors. In the second game, that feature is removed, but instead, what they do to compensate you for that is that the customization comes down to you customizing how many like fuck I say customization a lot, but you could change Cal Kestis like hair. You could give him a beard. You could give him a mustache. You could give him a goatee. You could give him like a full on beard, clean shaven. When it comes to like his hair, he could be like he could get a buzz cut. He could have long hair. He could have like a hair with a bent like hair like Luke's like the way Luke has it, but with the like a bandana across, like Karate Kid. You customize his Under Armour, his his basically his overcoat stuff like armor piece or like a jacket, and then his like legs, and then as you travel throughout the lands in between or whatever the fuck you want to call it, um you could find different um like pieces of clothing, as well as eventually finding in other chests pieces of like basically color palettes for those clothes. um Not to drag it out too much, but you could also customize the color of the lightsabers again, the color of BD1 again, and the color because you have a pistol now, the color of the pistol, as well as you could change the parts of the pistol, change the parts of the lightsaber, and you could actually change how BD1 looks like to tailor it to the way you would like your BD1 to look like. Same with Cal Kestis.
That's a lot. Yeah, a lot of options available, and I guess in instances like these, it doesn't always translate well over into like cutscene or gameplay. Does it translate pretty seamlessly?
Um,
Or because I know in like Cyberpunk, depending on how you customize, there's a plenty of customization, but sometimes you can clip through clothing. Cutscenes look weird if you have like long fingernails or something. It doesn't always translate fully.
Hmm.
But in this case, is it like pretty seamless?
Almost. When you wear outer tier outfits, so like cloaks and things like that, like coats. If they have like a cape on them, if you were to do the intro section of the game again on New Game Plus while you're wearing that outfit that you chose for yourself, the little cape part clips through Cal Kestis's like hands because he's handcuffed in the intro.
Mm-hmm.
So it clips through that. Um, but overall, everything renders pretty well in the cutscenes. It's just when you exit the cutscenes, the rendering isn't the best. Especially if you're running it on performance mode, which you don't even get like 60 frames per second, like natively. No.
That's usually the only appeal of performance mode to me.
Yeah, so you would probably get like even lower frame. I mean, you probably might get like 30 frames capped, but you probably might get like 25 or 20, depending on where you're at, like standing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably going to improve over time, as it usually does in cases like these. But yeah, overall, it sounds good.
Yeah, I look forward to the sequel. I want to see more that from the studio. I mean, EA has been like on like a roll, with their single player shit, which
I
is
guess to kind of spoil it then, do they kind of confirm they're making this like a trilogy?
I would like to say that there is potential for a trilogy, being EA, of course. You never know,
Yeah.
like even with their track record currently with like Dead Space, the remake being like amazing, and then now you have like beforehand you had like Jedi Fallen Order, Dead Space, and then now Survivor. It seems like they've been on like a pretty good streak with their single player story games, but I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know. It's gonna be something else. But enough about like Star Wars, right? On the Nintendo side of things, you mentioned Tears of the Kingdom, right? So tell me,
Yeah.
how's Korok Crucifixion Simulator going with you?
Yeah, people are building crazy things. And like you just said, there's a new way to get Korok seeds is to basically take a Korok that's stranded and bring him to his friend somewhere else, and you get two at once. Usually, this involves building something in the overworld. So I guess before going into more detail on that, I would just say this is a lot like Breath of the Wild. So if you're a fan of, or if anyone you know is a fan of Breath of the Wild, you will probably be a fan of Tears of the Kingdom. That being said, I know I've talked about, or we both talked about Nintendo games on the show before, and I brought up some grievances I had with Breath of the Wild, like a lot of repetitive puzzles, um, shrines that don't necessarily equate in difficulty, but all give you the same reward. Pretty minor stuff when it's compared to the open world, but I will say this game does repeat a lot of what the first does. So, once again, more shrines to do, just in a different style. Same things to collect, same towers, just in a different style. But the new features they added, such as the building and the sky islands, are really fun. So yeah, I'm not really big on the game design or really the writing of this one so far. I haven't beaten it though, so consider this first impressions. I've definitely gotten, I'd say, probably only like 5 to 10% through the game, considering how huge it is. So yeah, if you're looking for content, you can't go wrong here, especially if you're a fan of the first one.
So with I know that the first one of the bigger mechanics was that you had the ability to basically pretend it's like Gmod, and you could like pick up shit to make it do stuff. How is it that
Mhm.
they improve upon it?
Well, this one now you can target a lot of individual objects that you couldn't before. So whereas before you could select one large object and get it to move with your like Sheikah slate or like make a box on the ground that you can jump on top of, create an obstacle. Now you can grab obstacles and fuse them together to make a bigger obstacle or a bridge. And none of this needs to be structurally sound. It just needs to be stuck in a way that kind of agrees with physics. It is a kind of advanced like physics, I would say, in the sense that it does account for momentum and like weight distribution when you're building stuff. There was one shrine I had to do where I attached two logs together to form a mallet, and I had to get it moving fast enough to swing in order to hit a target. So yeah, it's a lot more advanced puzzles than the first, I'd say, so far. Which, because of Nintendo games being structured the way they are, isn't saying that much. But they do get you racking your brain a lot more, and being a lot more creative as well. So yeah, it feels more sandboxy.
Some of the things I've seen from the footage of the game, like a lot of like hilarious things. Like for example, a lot of people started turning mine carts into skateboards.
Yeah.
I've seen people turn like what looks like to be gliders into bomber airplanes.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
So yeah, there's these new items that essentially act as pieces that can power up regular objects. So for example, you could attach wheels to a plank and then use these new objects that are all powered using a new mechanic, like a battery you carry with you that you can upgrade as you progress through the game. But there'll be fans, like rockets, cannons, and when you strike them, something happens. For example, if you strike the fan, it'll turn on. Therefore, if you were to like attach that to a boat, you now have like a motor that'll propel the boat forward. Attach 4 of those same fans, you could take it off the boat and move it to like a platform that's elevated, and if you make enough of them, you could potentially lift up a platform in midair. So, yeah, it's pretty flexible. I will say only when you get further into the game, though.
Gotcha.
Which I haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah, this game looks like a psyop to turn people into engineers.
Maybe. Yeah, you could definitely go pretty crazy if you really devote the time to it.
Would you say that this game is like Game of the Year contender? The way, like, because I remember Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year, right? At one point?
Yeah, and I think it probably will be, honestly, because of how people generally respond to these things, in the sense that it's really fun, and it's really big, and it's a major title from a major gaming studio. But it is kind of something we've seen before now, whereas Breath of the Wild wasn't something we've really seen before yet. That being said, it does look a little better. Textures look pretty much exactly the same, I'm gonna be honest. But to me, it at least looks like they're using an either new or updated like lighting engine. Because I was playing, and a couple of my friends have even played and even commented on the lighting even being too bright sometimes, because it's a little more realistic in the sense where light will reflect off the grass outside. So if you're gazing out at like a wide open plains, it's actually pretty bright to do that.
Jeez, just flashbangs you when you're playing at night.
Yeah, pretty much. Same goes for like the snow during the day.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, how far can Nintendo really push their own like hardware? You know, I mean, it feels
Switch can only do so much, you know.
Yeah, that little guy who keeps pedaling. It's like he's like, I'm tired, boss. Fuck. I imagine that shit gets hot. Like, especially imagine playing that on the Switch Lite, dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fuck.
It seems to be doing all right. If you ever get close, though, you can hear the fans spinning. I will say they got a pretty good handle on render distance in this one, since it's a big thing, like a new feature where you're so high in the air now that you're on a different level with a different map, kind of like a layered map like Elden Ring had. And you can gaze down at the bottom for like clues on where to land, and you can see the whole landscape pretty well, just not in vivid detail, but it's certainly a lot better than Pokemon, which released recently as well, which had like embarrassing render distance of like across the street type stuff. You wouldn't be able to see another NPC.
Jesus.
So yeah, this
That's
shows that the Switch is actually capable of a lot, I guess, but maybe it isn't so easy to get to that point.
holding out on that Switch Pro, man. Feeling it.
Maybe. I think there was I haven't prepared it or anything, but I did think I saw something last week that said they're confirming no like Switch Pro or anything for this or next year.
Yeah. But that's really cool, man. Yeah.
Change in the future. But yeah, overall positive so far is my response to Tears of the Kingdom. But I think that was a nice foyer into game responses. But now let's circle back around to Microsoft again, because they're in the headlines for something totally unrelated to their operating system. This is more of a corporate thing. As of, once again, at the end of April, it seems that the United Kingdom blocked Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard in the UK. So this is from Reuters.com, and essentially it's confirming that Britain is going to block Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Activision. Makers of Call of Duty, and now that name's tied to Blizzard, who are also at the headlines for a different reason recently as well. But essentially, the United Kingdom's argument is that they would hinder competition in online cloud gaming. Which, let's be honest here, if they did complete that acquisition, which didn't they do that over here in the States?
It looks like, yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. I mean, if you launch like the Blizzard client or whatever on PC, you immediately have access to like WoW and like the respective like games, right? But you also have what is it? Oh my god. Yeah, you have Call of Duty.
Yeah, absolutely. The big old COD. But yeah, that is a pretty big blow, I think, to both parties involved, both Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, and they're probably going to appeal that. Let me see further down in the article. Yes, the Activision CEO said in response, "It's not the news they wanted, but it's far from the final word on this deal." It looks like they're going to try and appeal that. But yeah, that's kind of wild. What do you think? Are they right in thinking that?
I personally don't like the way. I don't know. I don't think it's anti-competitive. It's not like Amazon or Walmart, right? It's like it's video games. If you were to have Nintendo, imagine, Jesus Christ, Nintendo acquiring Activision, that'd be something else. But if Microsoft were to acquire Activision, like all the way, including the UK, I don't think anything would change. The industry has only moved past it and continued to shine. I mean, do you have as we talked about already? We have like Unrecorded, which is like from another developer that is not nowhere near as crazy as like rich or prevalent as like Activision or Blizzard.
Yeah. That's true, but I guess they're referring to more like cloud gaming in general. Which does that mean like stuff that's competitive based gaming, like Call of Duty competitive tournaments?
Yeah, the way they're saying it is very broad, because cloud gaming, in the way that it's used in the industry, is not used as a way to talk about like shooters. If you talk about cloud gaming, like as we covered the Stadia before, that the Stadia was and was, rest in peace Stadia, you waste of plastic. It's that's a cloud gaming console, because none of the games you owned, none of the games you bought, well, you kind of bought, the only thing you were able to do with these games was you couldn't even download them. it was you had an off-site server in God knows where, maybe India or like Australia or some shit, and then they would beam you the game footage like through your internet, and then the quality of the game you played, like whether it's the latency and the quality, like the pixels and stuff, really all came down to the speed of your internet.
Yeah.
And I don't think cloud gaming is anywhere near like as impactful as maybe like the what the bill is trying to claim it to be.
Well, I think it could just be overall how we think Microsoft would handle this. They're arguing that once they own this, then Microsoft would have stake in 60 to 70% of global cloud gaming services. So they'd have like a lot of say in how things are run by owning stuff like Call of Duty with like a huge online multiplayer player base. That being said, I don't know. Xbox Game Pass has generally positive reception. Microsoft always tries to give quality of life updates. I don't really like the idea of them owning more than half of like anything when it comes to just the technology and gaming landscape, because I think that's just too much for one company. But that being said, I haven't really seen them do anything that terrible to the cloud gaming landscape.
Yeah, no. It's so it's really, I don't know. I think it's like a big like a whole like nothing burger to me.
Yeah, could be.
It's just like it is a shame how much like I guess quote unquote power they're gonna have. But I mean, acquisitions are something that have been like an industry standard for a long time now. I
Yeah,
mean, how many acquisitions has like PlayStation made? You know,
a
or like
ton.
yeah, or like maybe I don't know how many. I don't get two shits about Nintendo as much as I do about like hearing out Microsoft and PlayStation. But like I don't know how many has Nintendo acquired as well. You don't you don't know. I mean I don't know. I mean I still don't think cloud gaming is that big of a deal now.
Mhm.
So it's the only thing I would worry about when it comes to Microsoft's acquisition of Activision would be like games being distributed to other consoles. For example, if they were to make Call of Duty a Xbox exclusive, if they were to make like I don't know if Activision, no, that's Blizzard.
They would have the power to do something like that.
Yeah, so see exactly. So if they were to make like well, I mean, Activision just has Call of Duty, right? Or and Destiny? No, not even Destiny. Just Call of Duty, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, I just have um I just have you just had Call of Duty. I mean, Call of Duty sells well like every year. But I wouldn't want that to be an exclusive for Xbox. I think that would suck. But the cloud gaming stuff, I don't really. It does not affect me. No.
Right on. But yeah, that is something of note, if anything at all. But that also ties into one loss that pairs with another Blizzard is facing recently, or Activision Blizzard. That being said, well, what I mean by that is just a few days ago, they announced that they are scrapping the Overwatch 2 hero missions, the PvE missions that essentially gave credence to the title being called a sequel.
It's true.
Um, so things don't seem to be going super for them at the moment, but they seem to still be making a lot of money.
Yeah, it's another classic Blizzard L. So, um, you know, as current industry punching bag, which is hilarious. They can't keep a single what is it announcement like on schedule or in existence. You
Or
know,
even like a positive announcement.
no, it's always like, "What's up, guys? We're here back to you guys with another Blizzard, like what is it like Blizzard Con, like you know, like PlayStation like has their own like event like Blizzard. That'd be funny if Blizzard has their own. You're like, all right, guys, here it is. What you guys been waiting for? Bad news.
Oh yeah, they had BlizzCon,
Yeah,
which I don't think they do anymore, which is another L.
yeah. Same as I'm saying. Common Blizzard L, but as you know, Jared has stated, you know, Blizzard is scrapping Overwatch 2, um, which is their PVE mode. I remember them having one like that in the original Overwatch, but
Uh,
it's, I think, was it?
no, they did not. It was fully online, but they had rotating PVE game modes.
Yeah, that see, there you go. Thank you for correcting me. Another retro L.
Two also has, but like that, yeah, that basically means nothing has changed from one. They were heavily advertising this more fleshed out, in-depth PVE experience, where like each character was gonna have skill trees you could branch off into and stuff like that.
For real, the Krusty Krab too.
Exactly.
It's the what is it? What I wanted to say is, um, the reason why is that according to it, when PC Gamer reported on this, the game director Aaron Keller for Blizzard, I'm assuming, said that the decision came down to a difficult choice the team had to make because they could either keep working on the PVE mode with the development being there being no end in sight, or they could scale it down to Overwatch 2's PVE focus.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? According to the executive producer, the progress of the PVE experience hasn't made the progress that we would hope. And then they also said that with everything we've learned about what it takes to operate this game at the level you deserve, it's clear that we can't deliver on the original vision for PVE that was shown in 2019. I don't, what?
Yeah, they can't meet up to the standards of that footage they showed
I don't
4 years ago.
It just sounds like, you know, like to me, like, you know, for putting our tinfoil hats on, right? Retro's tinfoil hat. It basically comes down to this. They only scrapped this because their shareholders were like, you know what? We can't make enough money from this. What if we do the shit Battlefield 2042 is doing and give you surface level story bits that have no real merit or like substance, but you get to buy new skins?
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it amounts to now that this isn't coming out. And then I'll give them some credence. I misspoke earlier. I just checked now. BlizzCon is still happening this year, but it actually has not happened the past 2 years.
So a Jared L with a reclaimed back-to-back Blizzard L with a now Jared confirmed Blizzard maybe W. Gotcha.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And I think Diablo 4 will be out by then, so I don't know if they're planning on just announcing updates or if they're going to be announcing a new title. Hopefully they have something exciting in mind, because if not, then I am wondering what they are doing with billions of dollars.
Going on vacations, baby. Woo! That's what I would do. I mean, if I was scum. Like Blizzard. But I mean,
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
yeah, it's a real shame. A real shame. I would like to say though that with the changes they made for Overwatch in my brief time playing it were kind of like lame. Because the whole point was here with Overwatch 2, it's gonna be like this whole new thing. We're gonna make it 5v5 instead of 6v6. We're gonna remove characters that people actually gave a shit about that have been around since the game's for Overwatch's 1 inception. And then we're gonna add a PvE, and then they're like, what if we just remove the character? Congratulations. like if you think about it like this, from a gamer that's like a boomer mentality, Team Fortress 2 has both outlived Overwatch 1 and the PvE mode.
Yeah, and they've even had their own. Isn't their PvE mode man versus machine?
Yes. So they have a PvE mode, and a working multiplayer mode. Granted, there are bots in the lobbies on PC. That's not not to take that away from them,
There's
but
hackers.
and there's hackers.
But it's hard to stop that nowadays.
Yeah, but it's still alive. It's still alive, and I find that hilarious.
Yeah, well, yeah, like you said, Overwatch 2, it's not too impressive, the updates they added, especially if you weren't that in depth with the game. Really, only people that are able to like appreciate 2 are people that played a lot of 1, because that's really the only way you would understand all the small character changes they made, and some big character changes. But that's essentially what it was, character updates and changes with a few new maps.
Yeah, no.
So, yeah, it's unfortunate there's not going to be more content. Maybe they'll do something to compensate, but I'm not too confident in that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I've all of my friends were having really terrible gripes with that news. The people that did play it, to the point where one of my friends, his name is his gamer tag is IXBungie. He, former host of the show, you know. He was like, I'm deleting this game, man. Fuck Overwatch. Fuck his mom. Fuck bitch. You know, it's like, so it's crazy because he's defended that game, like both the first and the second one.
He's quitting, because I know a couple people that are quitting too.
I think for the foreseeable future, yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder if they're actually gonna see like a large like drop in the player base.
I hope, because the only thing they're like, oh, what up, guys? It seems like we're quarter net short from like our quarterly $1 trillion that we make. So we just we apparently we somehow have a fire lit up under our asses. And what's to know? What do you know? The PvE is back in development and it's almost finished. It's coming out next month. Like, I'm just waiting for that to happen. Like in any studio, I feel like that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But moving forward from that, undesirable sequels. We should talk about what our favorite sequels from games and film have been. You know, in the last episode of the Wonders podcast, it was mostly a film-based podcast, while this episode was mostly about video games. But they tied it together with what we usually talk about, you know, our quota. You know, why not talk about both, right? Like,
Yeah.
for example, you know, as Blizzard 2, as Overwatch 2 takes another fat, stupid L, along with their company, what game sequel do you know that is a massive W?
I want to like just cite like really good games that I think are fantastic sequels, but I kind of want to stick with like the whole 2 aspect. So I guess if I were to think what's a really good 2, from childhood, I know Sly 2 is a pretty great sequel to Sly 1. That's a stealth platformer from the early 2000s. And Uncharted 2 is also really good. I think pretty much saved the series.
Bangers?
And led into like the, pretty banger Uncharted 4.
It's very true.
Those aren't both the same studio. That one's Sucker Punch, the other's Naughty Dog. But those are both like early PlayStation studios. And hell, like God of War 2, both, the one from 2006, the one from 2007, and the one from 2022, both great.
Yeah.
A lot of great games that are sequels that come from early Sony developers.
Yeah, man, God rest their souls wherever they are, man. Great, geniuses, in my opinion. They, what's like, with these games you're talking about, like, what kind of legacy do you believe, like, they've left in their wake? These sequels.
I think it's pretty much paved the way for a trilogy for all of those instances I just cited. First of all, and foremost, it pretty much leaves you with a lot of discussion and inspiration on, what works and what doesn't when it comes to a franchise. Because when you have a sequel that's really good and then thus a trilogy, you now have like a slope when you're looking at the narrative like in its entirety and looking at how you enjoyed all of them in their entirety, you have like a least favorite aspect of all of them and a most favorite aspect of all of them. What I usually notice, could be just me, is that usually the best experiences tend to be in the sequel, in like the 2 rather than the 3.
Your best experiences?
Yeah, so like I prefer Uncharted 2 over Uncharted 3. I kind of prefer Sly 2 over Sly 3.
What about God of War?
I actually prefer God of War 3 over 2, but
It's
that's the exception, not the rule.
true. It's very true. And culturally, do you think these games like had any real impact on the gaming sphere?
I think they get cited a lot when talking about Sony games, for sure. They did, unfortunately, so well that they started the track record of exclusivity being like such a natural part of Sony's lineup, which is now breaking since they discovered how well games sell on the computer.
It's true. For me, when it comes to like sequels, oof. I mean, you already mentioned over like Uncharted 2. I guess
Yeah,
Infamous
it's a good
2 would be like one that I'd fuck with hard. I really liked Infamous 2.
It's another Sony that's also Sucker Punch.
It's also
Who
Sucker
made
Punch,
Sly.
man. Yeah, they've made really good games. Um, fuck, man. I haven't played a lot of like direct sequels before. I guess Survivor has been good.
Oh
Survivor,
yeah, that is a sequel.
yeah. Breaking away from the two-hit economy.
And what do you think about since I think you were talking about the remaster last episode? What do you think about Dead Space 2 compared to 1?
Oh, that's true. Thank you. Dead Space. See, it's always a competition between one or two. I enjoyed my time with one more because although two like ups the ante, I think the eeriness and the I guess the the difference like I prefer one still. One is probably my favorite. Two deserves its own place though for continuing the series on the same path. You know, of course, we could talk about three if we wanted to, but I'm pretty sure people know. You know, listeners of the show know the legacy that three has left to the game. Um, and rest in peace, Visceral Studios. But
Absolutely.
let's see. Moving past three though, past the two, I fuck with Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 is probably one of my favorite like sequels.
I think it's the best written Uncharted.
I think so too. I think it's the best like written Uncharted. Um,
And even then, I don't like the discrepancy with the fictional mob boss guy.
I guess if we were to talk about other games that have like two in them, probably Metal Gear Solid 2. I really fuck with. Sons of Liberty. It's really cool. What was it? Was it about? Let me see. Let me think. It was about a massive offshore cleanup facility that was seized by a bunch of terrorists called the Sons of Liberty, and you actually don't play as Snake, or you play as Raiden, not Raiden. They pronounce it Raiden because I mean, I guess it's a Japanese game, right? Sons of Liberty is one of the it's probably one of the most I can't even speak, man. It's just a great game, like a solid sequel, and the that was based off the mastermind that is Hideo Kojima. One of the biggest things that really resonated today with the game, with Metal Gear Solid 2, is the promotional material. I remember so well because I looked into it. The promotional material of Metal Gear Solid 2 basically shows it takes place in the center place. Sorry, it takes place in the year that it does, but you play as Solid Snake. Solid Snake is like the main guy from the first game, right? It's like everyone's
Yeah.
like, holy shit, Solid Snake is tight, and then this is like this white like feminine male in the background. That's so cool. And then like all of a sudden, like when you play the game, you play as the a lot of the fans like talk about Raiden in this point in time as like a twink or some shit. And then so like you basically play as like the twink
So
throughout
hold
the
on,
whole game.
correct me if I'm wrong. Like, wasn't this like? And I didn't play the game at the time or was aware of this, but I think I might have listened to like a video essay or something on it. Was that like a? It wasn't announced to the public,
It's
and
right.
because of that, it was also like controversial.
Yeah, it was a gotcha. Like the entire time the promotional material alluded to you stepping back into the shoes of Solid Snake. But in that first level, they're like, deuces. It's your turn, boy. So you step into the shoes of Raiden, and you play as Raiden the majority of the time, up until like what seems like the very end when you see like Solid Snake again.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with sequels kind of breaching out of what their predecessors do, mostly because if it turns out not to be good, it usually makes you look at the predecessor more fondly,
True.
which is not a bad thing.
And then just to like round out the list, um, when it comes to like shooting games, like I'm a big first person shooter kind of game. I prefer not to talk about Call of Duty, although I could mention like World at War and Modern Warfare 2.
Well,
Um,
naturally, there are some Call of Duty sequels that are pretty good.
yeah, I would like to talk. I'm a big Battlefield person, so talking more on what I can expertly, quote unquote, expertly talk better on. The two best sequels to like 1942, well, could have been right Bad Company. But I like the one that came after that, which was Battlefield 3, and then later down the line in 2016, Battlefield 1. All those games that I've mentioned were all great and very important to PC culture when it comes to the first person side of things. Battlefield originally originated first on PC, and then with Bad Company series, it migrated to consoles. But like my God, like Battlefield 3 was what really put Battlefield on the map for a lot of people, I believe. At least like when it came to like newer like gamers coming
That's
into
certainly
the
what I heard about it when 3 came out.
yeah, and then Battlefield 1, it being a prequel. Well, technically, it's a sequel because it released, but it's technically a prequel. Takes place in World War One. We've talked about Battlefield 1 before on this podcast. Solid game, solid atmosphere. Everything about it was just like 9.5 out of 10.
Right on.
Yeah. What about like movies? You got any sequels that are like, holy shit, man?
Sequels, I mean, what I said about like perceptions earlier, I think also applies to movies. When it's like a trilogy, you can kind of look at it like a slope where there's a least favorite and a favorite. I like the sequel to John Wick,
John Wick 2?
which I find is actually a pretty unpopular opinion when I say that to people. People either tend to like the first or third more. And I have not seen the fourth, which just came out, I think, a couple months ago now. But I need to see it. I heard good things about it. But I think 2's a pretty good sequel for like a modern action film. I think it's pretty peak, to the point where they even start running out of ideas because of how many good ones they've already used. But the choreography, you never get tired of it in that franchise.
Yeah.
But I guess if I'm thinking animation, oh well, shoot, I actually really like Spider-Man 2, 2004.
Yeah.
I want to say Marvel.
That's a good one. I have
Sam
to agree.
Raimi.
Yeah. While you think of like any other ones, for me, the like just to throw them out there, like I could confidently, because Jared was talking about like the direct sequels, like going from 1 to 2. I could do that better with movies. I could say like the Two Towers, great sequel.
True.
Two Towers is great. Empire Strikes Back. Like Indiana Jones 2.
These are classics.
They're classics, yeah. Um, let's see. Yeah, I fuck with those movies like so. And then like I know the Matrix trilogy isn't like too well thought of, except for it being like a cultural thing. I really fuck with like Reloaded, like Matrix Reloaded is cool, and I know a lot of people go like, well, the first one's the best, the first one's the best, and I'm like, yeah, it's really good, but I like the, although CGI has aged like milk, the what they were trying to go for in Reloaded is awesome. I thought that shit was so cool. Like the fight scene where you fight like a trillion, like where Neo fights like a trillion Agent Smiths. That scene was lit.
I actually haven't seen the movie itself, but I've seen like all three of them parodied to high hell.
Yeah.
Like just even referenced in popular culture just on its own. So I believe you there.
Yeah. Let's see, Kung Fu Panda 2, another good one.
I think that's pretty good.
Puss in Boots, the one that recently came out.
That was a fantastic sequel. Yeah, I forgot to even think of it as a sequel because of how long ago that other one was.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's a pretty popular one as of late. And I think it's pretty also peak for, general, young adult, general audience animation.
Yeah, and then my favorite sequel of all time, Blade Runner 2049, starring literally me, Ryan Gosling. It's like it's the, I think it's such a godlike sequel to the much anticipated like cult classic, well, not anticipated, like I guess critically acclaimed cult classic Blade Runner, starring Harrison Ford, which is the final cut. For those hearing this, the final cut is the best cut, the best version. If you're going to watch it, the final cut is the best version. No one, do not listen to anybody else. Final cut. But 2049 on its own, phenomenal movie. It is probably my favorite single movie of all time. If I like, probably sequel, because I when it comes to like Star Wars, I like what is it, Return of the Jedi. When it comes to Lord of the Rings, I actually do prefer, as much as the Two Towers is god tier, Return of the King. It's probably my favorite. Blade Runner 2049 as a duology, just fantastic. Just my favorite.
I agree. Honestly, it was as good, if not better, when it comes to like prodding, philosophy questions, I guess. But it also had it fixed all of the problems I had with the first one as well.
Especially with Rachel. Especially the part with Rachel and Deckard teaching where Deckard teaches Rachel all about love.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
And, the first one, I think, had a lot of violence towards women in general, which isn't a bad thing, in terms of how it was presented in a violent world. Like, this is what happens to people in the future, where people are monopolized and are made products. But it seemed to just show a lot of it just happening to women. Whereas the sequel, I think, did a better job of showing how women were objectified, but talking about it more, especially with reflecting off of the main character's emotions with it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I did really good with that.
I could definitely see that for sure. I would definitely have to agree with some of the things you were saying there. Yeah. So yeah, those were our favorite sequels and movies. I don't know if you have any more up your the top of your head you could think of.
Not necessarily. I think it's funny that Harrison Ford is in 70% of these sequel movies.
Seriously, oh my god, I didn't even realize that. This Harrison Ford is in almost everything we talk about. Holy shit, man.
Yeah, he's getting old. I guess we'll see how he does in
the new Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
His coup de grace. His final appearance, perhaps.
Yeah, one of the funniest things about that movie, right before we we put a pin on this, is how they were Harrison Ford is that his magnum opus seems to be Indiana Jones. he doesn't give two shits about like Han Solo. Indiana Jones is like that's his baby.
Yeah.
And apparently he said I've been seeing headlines and like talks going around that he doesn't want anyone replacing him. Like he is the Indiana Jones.
Wow.
Which
Well, he is very iconic. I don't know if I agree with that though.
I personally think it's like a perfect like I believe I think it's time that like for example in a previous episode we talked about how like studios are too afraid to kill off characters.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily have to like kill off characters. We could just retire them.
Yeah.
And so I think it'd be like a very bold move and a very much appreciated one towards Harrison Ford's legacy if Indiana Jones was like retired as a character. And maybe within the universe of Indiana Jones we could have like someone take over that's well written.
Yeah, no, I think the film franchise itself, if that's what you're referring to, yeah, I think it'd be pretty impossible to try to stop just the name itself from being adapted in some way, shape, or form, though.
Yeah, true. I mean, I remember the Shia LaBeouf's character in Crystal Skull was gonna sort of take the mantle.
No.
Yeah, and then Shia LaBeouf had his own Temple of Doom moment. IRL. And he didn't come out of it nice. Yeah. Yeah, and so it seems like the partner character that's been kind of like presented in the promotional material might seem to be the answer to that. So, yeah. But with that being said, this seems to be the Wanderers podcast, Jared introduced it, so I'm gonna end it, put it to rest, like Indiana Jones, rest in peace. Hopefully, not really, knock on wood. But yeah, I'm retro_loneliness. You could find my link tree down below. I do Twitch streams whenever the semester's over, so I'm going to be Twitch streaming more. Look out for follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the usual influencer bullshit. And then I'm going to pass it to Jared.
Yeah, thanks. Likewise, I'm Jared. I have a YouTube channel called Midnight Lab where I do game analysis and stuff, usually with darker themes. I haven't uploaded on a while, but a new Amnesia title's dropping really soon, so I may try and make a video on that. Besides that, my link tree is also there. And thanks for all tuning in this evening.
All right. Bye.